Welcome to the Love Pod, where inspiration, vision, and real connection come alive. Wherever you are, you belong here.
All right, welcome to the Love Pod. We're really happy to have you all here listening to us today. We have a special guest, Skylar Girard, who is tuning in from Vietnam, and he is an awesome AI automation agency owner, and he is a powerful example of being a digital nomad. So we're really happy to have you on here, Skylar. Welcome, and
Thank you, Nathaniel.
yeah, tell us about yourself and what brought you into this area of the world and this really exciting and expansive area of technological innovation that's going to revolutionize the world probably more than the internet did.
hmm Yeah, I totally agree. It's definitely it's changing everything as we know it. But yeah, I'd say it starts quite a while ago. I think I've always been interested in tech. My dad was always into computers and building stuff, and I think I originally wanted to go to school for computer science, and then I found some videos online of like guys doing businesses when they were younger, and that kind of I was like, oh, I want to try that. And so I started just building businesses online. Didn't have a lot of success, but then was still doing that, and then I worked as a personal trainer in person, but still was like working on the side on some online stuff. And then yeah, I had a business where I was doing like buy and sell. So I was buying and selling kind of like Gary Vee style, doing
Okay.
like computers, video games, blenders, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, then ChatGPT came out and I was like, oh, this is crazy technology. Like this is so powerful. And I started using it just to help me with my Google Sheets and like tracking all the sales and everything. I had it
Okay.
make me like some nice formulas and kind of automate some of the pages and the data. And yeah, I just started using it for that business quite a bit, like writing ad descriptions, that sort of thing. And then eventually I stumbled on a YouTube video and this guy he was talking about Go High Level selling that and how it's really powerful because you can have just one subscription and you can have as many accounts as you want for no extra fee. And I was like, wow, this is crazy, like all the things that you could do with it. So yeah, started using that, got really obsessed with that. And then around the same time, I also started building like custom things with AI
Hmm.
where I was using AI to like help me program. And I'd taken like a programming class in high school, but I barely know how to program. Even now, like I built tons of things, but I still like barely know how to program.
Okay.
Just had AI teach me or build me a lot of things. And yeah, I was able to build some really cool stuff. And then just kind of got obsessed with it. I was like, oh, like what else can I build? And there's a lot of things just myself. I was like just random ideas. Like one of the first things I built was like an AI life coach. And it would basically you put in a bunch of information about like your goals and what you want to achieve in life, what you want to do with your life, your different habits, all these kind of things. And then you could talk to the AI and it would know about you and it would give you like personalized feedback as to how you should
Wow.
kind of maneuver in the world. And yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. I made a YouTube video on that. That's like one of my first videos. And then yeah, just started building all kinds of things. I was like, whatever I could think of that was like cool automation, I just started building that. And then I started kind of going back to a go high level and like getting clients, helping them out. Basically, I didn't know how to like make money off the custom stuff. I was like, okay, like an AI life coach is cool, but like I don't know how to sell it. I don't know who to sell it to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas the business automations for like, missed text callbacks or websites, that sort of thing is a lot easier to sell. So yeah, I started doing that, and then I've kind of been doing a mix of both those now for the past like year.
Okay.
I've also been working with some of my friends who he has a school community, and he's basically like teaching people how to invest. And I've helped like build up his business, his back end system, his landing page, that sort of thing.
Okay.
And yeah, then just working with other people who are in the like local business space, helping them build their automations. And yeah, I think in terms of traveling, I moved to Asia I think it was around 10, 11 months ago now. And basically, it's funny, I was actually supposed to go with my friend, and we had planned it for like a year, and he was still working a job, and so he was kind of waiting, wanted to make sure he had enough money and was more comfortable to leave. And then like 3 days before we were supposed to leave, he called me up and he's like, "Hey man, like I can't go yet. I gotta wait. Like I'm gonna come next month." And so then I had to decide. He's like, "Yeah, like if you want to wait for me, you can wait, and I'll like pay for the difference in the plane ticket." But yeah, he had to wait, so I had to make a decision if I was gonna go by
Mm.
myself or was gonna wait for him. And yeah, I just decided to go. I figured, it was definitely more scary.
Mm.
Like traveling literally across the world, like the other side of the world by yourself was not the most chill thing, but I'm very glad I did. It was a very good experience. I learned a lot of things, met a lot of new people, and ultimately, I think I realized like it's really not that scary. Like, it's pretty
Mm.
easy if you know English to get around. Like, Google Translate, Google Maps, these sort of things are super useful. I imagine like 50 years ago it'd be a lot worse, but technology definitely makes it a lot easier. And yeah, since then I've just been traveling around. I'm in Vietnam. I've been kind of all over Asia and just building AI automations, talking to people, networking, and living life.
That's amazing, man. And there's so much there to like unwrap and look at, and it's interesting. I really see that entrepreneurial spark in you, that passion and that willingness and courage to leap into the unknown in several different ways. I think that
Hmm.
really is so important to be able to do that. And it's funny, maybe you can talk a little bit about that too, that leaping into the unknown, so many folks maybe have an idea or want to do something different, but it does take that leap, and so you found it was easy in your easier than you thought it was. Has that been the case for some of your entrepreneurial endeavors? Like, yeah, what's your journey as an entrepreneur been like?
Yeah, I think it feels really scary, but then you do it and you're like, oh, it wasn't that bad. Like that's almost how it happens every single time.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't that true for most things in life, eh? We build it up in
Yeah.
our mind more than it is. So, I mean, you talked about a lot of really kind of important things that maybe people aren't aware of. Maybe can you talk a little bit about like go high level? What exactly is it? How can it be used? And also in because so many people have this concern about AI as well. So this so many people I think feel overwhelmed. Like there's so much change. We're seeing all these new things like Go High Level and other advanced systems coming about and AIs and there's a lot of fear out there. What's your perspective on that?
Hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. There's definitely a lot of fear. I wouldn't say I'm like completely confident that things are going to work out 100% either. I mean, I think AI is if it's like a multiplier. Like whoever uses it, I think can do more of whatever they're doing.
Hmm.
And if that's good or bad, so I think we have to really hope that the people who are using it are using it for good things and put like good practices in place, which I think is happening at least right now. So hopefully that continues.
Yeah.
But to circle back to your first question, like go high level, I think it's basically, yeah, it's a software that's built for agencies mainly. And so the idea is you reach out to businesses, specifically local businesses, it works really well for, but honestly, it works like for pretty much any business. Um, they just have like every tool you would need in one place. So like you can host your website, you can have funnels, you can have forms, you can have it's got a CRM built in so you can manage all your contacts. It's extremely customizable. You can have like different pipelines, you can structure them how you want. Automations, which is like my favorite thing to do. You can have like email automations, pipeline automations, email text automations, calendar automations, like yeah, calendars too, like Calendly, it has that built in. Um, yeah, there's so many things. AI chatbots, AI receptionist. It's like if you have a business, you could probably use high level, go high level.
Yeah, yeah. That's really interesting. I feel like all of these things are going more and more towards what you talked about in the beginning, like, an all-in-one place, like using AI as a life coach. Like I really like this
Mhm.
concept of edge AI, that, an AI that really knows you and meets you where you're at and all your needs and helps really alleviate a lot of that administrative burden, from our
Mhm.
lives, from whether you're an entrepreneur or just generally, like you're talking about, keeping yourself on target for goals. And you've really leapt
Mhm.
in as a pioneer and saw the power and potential of this tool. How do you see AI evolving and because you're an educator in this space too, so
Mhm.
what's kind of your ideas or how do you hope what's your higher vision for it unfolding if we don't know, right?
Mhm. I think I think there's going to be quite a bit. I feel like most jobs are probably, at least most jobs that we have now are going to be gone. I do think there's going to be more jobs that we just can't even think of. I think there's a lot of that happens where, we can try our best and imagine what's going to happen, but I think the world's going to be so different that we can't even comprehend. The same way that like people, if you told them 1,000 years or 100 years ago, even that podcasting was going to be a job, they'd be like, "What do you mean? Like, what is that?" Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't even, there's zero context. I think we're going to have a very similar situation.
Or playing
So
video
I,
games.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You just can't even think about it. It's like, what do
Yeah.
you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's going to be a lot of like, I think some of the biggest changes to the world are going to be like humanoid robots that are doing things like around your house or doing things like in a factory that can be like replacing a person, like even a storefront, a coffee shop, that sort of thing. I
Yeah.
think those are going to be extremely disruptive to the world. And then, yeah, I think on like a personal level, I think we're all probably going to have like our own AI that we can talk to on either on your phone or even like a humanoid robot in person. And it's gonna be weird. I don't know exactly how it's gonna play out yet. If it's gonna be like, I think it's gonna be a net positive because I think if you think about it now, like it seems like a lot of people are like things like social anxiety are like an all-time high. People have
Hmm.
like it seems like not a lot of friends, at least not like close friends, maybe like online they talk to people, but like in-person communication I think is like at an all-time low.
Hmm.
And I think that's going to change with AI where like you'll have an AI friend and that may sound kind of weird. It's like, okay, that's going to make it even more bad. But I think it'll give people the skills to communicate better if they can
Hmm.
talk with a robot. And I think it'll kind of bring us all together. Like, okay, like, you kind of break out of your shell. Like the AI will probably teach people how to communicate better, how to improve themselves, help them. Because the root of it, I think, is like the people who are usually isolated and like stuck inside. It's like if they were doing better in life, they'd probably be want to be out more and have more friends and do more things. So I think if they have an AI to help them and coach them to do those
Hmm.
things, I think they'll kind of grow as a person and want to connect with other people.
Yeah, that's really interesting that you talk about that social deficit. And it seems very paradoxical that we would have a technological companion to help develop those skills that maybe we've lost from being um, too on our devices and not engaging. I do, wonder a lot about the generations that were certainly impacted with COVID and all that stuff, and like
Hmm.
being forced to go in these very artificial flat environments for their school and everything. It's interesting, Skylar, you and I had some pretty deep conversations when we first met, and my background is in indigenous wellness, and I've spent a lot of time contemplating you know, consciousness as well as AI. I've been, thinking about it for over 20 years now, about the implications of what it can mean, and listen to a lot of like long form content. I really like Mark Andreessen's, concept of the race to the top with AI. Like, how can we make this the best possible outcome for all of us and go there instead of making this really like, like how can we siphon as much profit and
Hmm.
in the process run over a bunch of people. So I really like this spirit that I'm seeing in the community developing in AI, and you're certainly a part of that in sharing what you're learning about automations and all that. Do you want to
Hmm.
talk a little bit about your perspective on like you talk about it boosting, social skills and stuff. How has it elevated your life skills in
Hmm.
this journey?
I'd say in terms of like real practical life skills, I found there just wasn't like a good solution. So I used AI to help me build a good solution.
Ah,
So I literally built like my own iOS app where it tracks all of my habits as well as my like moods throughout the day. And then at the end of it's 20 days you need of data, and then it'll give you like a full analysis of like, okay,
wow.
whenever you meditate for 10 minutes a day, you have a 13% increase in your gratitude, or you experience, 10% less stress. Like it gives you like real metrics. And I think that's like a really practical way that it's helped me. Um, in terms of probably the second biggest thing, or maybe even the biggest thing, is my ability to learn. Like
Hmm.
as much as I love like YouTube and that sort of thing, I think I've learned way more using AI. I've literally gotten AI to help me learn how to build AI. Like that's definitely been the biggest skill. And like the things I built, if I would have told myself like years ago, I think I would have had the confidence I could build it. But like the speed that I've been able to build things is just incredible. It's like I have an idea for like this system that I want to build to automate some process in the business. And it's like you would have to pay a developer like thousands of dollars years ago to build this whole thing out, and I could do
Yeah,
it in like an afternoon. And I
that's
just use
amazing.
ChatGPT to help me like put together a few pieces. And it's crazy.
That's amazing. Skylar, a lot of the audience that Lightheart Vision attracts is around conscious parenting, conscious educators. And I have a background in college level education, and I had this like crazy experience with AI, like live time in a class, because one of the courses I taught last winter was an Indigenous wellness course. And it's not that I've particularly mastered any Indigenous language, but I really have been looking at languages as a whole for a long time. And so part of the class was students would choose whatever language they wanted to develop and grow in, and then um, to develop through the course. And their last project was actually to create a skit with the team and then perform the skit. So I just went on ChatGPT. I said, I wonder if Chat can help with writing an Indigenous skit. And I just plugged it in the classroom while they were working, and it like created this whole Anishinaabe skit with translation and pronunciation and everything in like 30 seconds. I was like, oh my goodness, like this is way more advanced than I thought. So just on that topic
Yeah.
of learning, what are
Yeah.
some of, so maybe I'd love to hear your message to some of these educators who are maybe like still in denial and like just don't use that, or parents who
Mhm.
are afraid of their children, and there's a lot of, worries and anxieties out there. What would be something you would tell them from a maybe a positive framework to yeah, uplift that or alleviate those
Mhm.
worries?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, like I think if you don't use it, you're going to be at a huge disadvantage. And that's like the nice way I can put it, where it's like people are going to use it, and if you're scared of it, or you're worried, or you're just you don't want to learn, you don't want to put the time in, other people are gonna use it. I would say I don't think there's anything to be scared of in the sense of like I think the biggest thing I've noticed is people are like, oh, it takes like the humanness out of it or like the
Hmm.
creativity out of it, which I
Hmm.
totally agree. But there's still an element where you're the one like telling it what to do. You still have like the bigger
Yeah.
vision and you're
Yeah.
just having it. It's like having an employee work for you. It's like you give the employee kind of the main idea and then they go out and fulfill it. And
Hmm.
it's like having an employee who works like 1,000 times faster than any human and can do things just like in an instant.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think you got to use it. I mean, it helps so much, and maybe it is scary, but um, I don't know. I just think it's cool. Like when I
Yeah.
first used it, I was like, wow, this is just so amazing how this is even possible. That was my perspective on it.
Yeah, I think that's really important, making that an approachable, fun way. And like as an educator, you're doing that, you're sharing it. Do you have a particular mission of what you are like trying to accomplish in sharing your building skills? Is it just out of passion and interest that you're doing it, or do you have a long-term like um, mission you're trying to fulfill in that?
I don't, to be honest. I just like teaching people. That's probably the biggest thing.
Awesome, man.
Um, yeah, I think I almost was a psychologist at one point. I think that was the other kind of field I was going to
Ah,
go into. And I just really like understanding people and then also like sharing and imparting wisdom. I think that's been something that's been very fulfilling to me. And yeah, if I even like AI, like teaching someone how to like build something is it's very, especially when yeah, I don't know, just helping people out in that way is very, very fulfilling.
yeah, that's awesome. I think this is a good segue. Like when we first met, I was inspired to talk with you and excited because I just thought we were going to talk about technology and artificial intelligence, and you brought up that you had gone through an awakening earlier in your days. So this has been my understanding is like an important part of your growth, and I'm wondering like if you want to share a little bit about that journey with us, and
Hmm.
also if you want to talk about how you see those two worlds kind of coming together.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, for sure. So yeah, I guess to give context, before I ever got into the space, I was like extremely skeptical about anything like spiritual or anything like metaphysical, I guess for lack of a better term. And yeah, I was just like, I think I thought I knew everything, how the world worked. I was like, oh, like this is how it works, like, very physical reality, that sort of thing. And then, yeah, I watched this guy on YouTube. His name's Kino Body, and he was the first guy who kind of got me into fitness and like training, working out, eating right, intermittent fasting, these sort of things. And it really, really helped me. I lost a bunch of weight. I was overweight when I was in high school, and he recommended a book called The Power of Now at one point. And I was like, okay, this guy gave me great advice about fitness and he recommends this book. I'm gonna listen to the book. So I got the audiobook, listened to it, and I understood like maybe 5% of the book. I had like no idea what he was saying. And I think it was like a couple months later, I was kind of in like a depressed state. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I still was like ambitious about business. Like I still was like, I want to have a business, but I didn't know like what business. Um, yeah, just kind of feeling lost. And the one night I was watching a YouTube video, I forget the exact, it was something to do with like your ego. And basically in the video, I had a bunch of epiphanies of just like, oh my goodness, like I never thought about my mind that way.
Hmm.
And like some of the things were like we we're so like programmed in a way, like we who we believe we are, the things we like, the things we don't like, the way we respond, like so much of it, if not all of it, is programmed from our childhood and then just our
Hmm.
experiences on top of that from then. And one of the things too, I think he said that really resonated was like, I think I had these ideas of like I wanted to do something really impactful with my life and like change the world for the better. And maybe it sounds kind of sad in a way, but he's like, people who often want this, they don't realize that, in 1,000 years, 10,000 years, 100,000 years, whatever it is, there's a certain time where what you have done will be completely forgotten. And I was like, damn, yeah. So like, as much as it is good that you want to like do positive things, like really in the grand scheme of things, like we're all going to be forgotten. And that just hit me. And then I think the other thing he mentioned was to do like a death meditation. And it sounds kind of weird, but he basically said you just sit and imagine like what would happen if you died in this moment? Like how would your family react, your friends, all this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And I kind of went through that process mentally. And I didn't really like feel very emotional about it. I just kind of it was just interesting, I guess. And then it sounds weird, but then my ears started to like vibrate. And I was like, oh, like this. I didn't really think about it, but I was just like, I noticed it. And then I started to pay more attention to it. And the more attention that I paid, the more kind of intense the sensation got. And it felt like there was like a beam of energy bouncing between my ears.
Hmm.
And again, it went like faster and faster. And then maybe 20 minutes went by. I don't know how long. And prior to this too, I had like never meditated either. I was just like, I maybe meditated like 5 minutes or 10 minutes, like one time, but had no like really ideas for it. And then I got up, I was like, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom. And the second that I like went to the bathroom, it was like a force field hit me and like the
Wow.
whole room just completely changed. And I was like literally standing there in just pure awe for like 5 minutes. I was looking at my door and I was like, I've never actually seen my door.
Wow.
It was the craziest experience. And my mind was so clear and I was just fully present. And then afterwards, I remember I was in my room and I was just like, oh, like I totally get it now. Like the power of now. Like this moment is literally all that exists. And it just
Yeah.
hit me so hard. I remember I was like laughing to myself. I was looking at my hat and I was like, this is the most amazing thing, just like staring at a hat. Like, it was so wild. And I remember feeling like completely whole. That was probably like
Hmm.
the most like impactful thing was just this sense of like, oh, I don't need anything else external at all. Like
Hmm.
everything that I've ever wanted is literally here.
Hmm.
It felt so visceral to the fact where like before that I was very ambitious. I was like, I want like all these fancy cars, money, houses, all this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And in that moment, I was like, oh, like I could have all of that stuff and it wouldn't be like 0.1% of whatever this experience is.
Hmm.
And yeah, it completely changed my personality. I was like, before that, I was extremely self-conscious and very anxious. I'd talk to people, I would stutter, I wouldn't know what to say. I'd be like thinking about how they're perceiving me, just very in my head, very anxious. And then after this, I mean, I was a personal trainer at the time, and I personally, one of the reasons I became a trainer was because I knew I was like, I want to force myself to talk to more strangers so that I get better at it.
Yeah.
And like I said, every day I try to sell people and I was like stuttering. I forget the script. And then the day after this like weird experience, I went to work and like I knew the entire script. I said it absolutely perfectly, like no, like it was
Wow.
crazy. And I was like, wow, it was so profound. Even like I talked so much slower. I had better posture. Like my whole being changed. And I'd say that lasted for like 2 weeks. I was very just like conscious and present. Remember, I just like sat in my room and like stared at the ceiling. And I was like, I don't need to do anything. And
That's incredible. Wow, man.
yeah, it was wild.
So, I mean, like it sounds like you really tuned into a higher level of awareness within yourself, and that just transformed almost instantaneously. That is
Hmm.
pretty rare for most people. Their awakening journey is more gradual. So, I'm
Hmm.
curious, how have you integrated that? Because I mean, I've had some of these experiences as well, and they can be like these really intense experiences that kind of can diffuse over time. So, how have you?
Hmm.
Yeah, how have you integrated and maintained some of that awareness of your wholeness? Like that's powerful.
Hmm. I'd say I haven't done it that well, to be completely honest. I mean, I think there's definitely room for improvement in terms of like, I mean, even that statement in itself is like the lacking, but
There's some beliefs there.
yeah, for sure,
There's
for
some
sure.
room to improve on my wholeness here.
Exactly.
That's funny.
Oh man. But I think I mean after it for me, I guess I was lucky in a sense where I didn't I don't know, I guess I was just very just peaceful afterwards.
Mhm,
So the integration aspect of it was like I just became extremely aware of all of my like bad habits in a sense, or all like
mhm,
the mental pathways that I would go down, like the things that I would say or things that I would think of myself or other people, whatever it was. And I was just super aware of them. And then I was aware of like I could investigate why. I'd be like, oh, like why do I think
mhm,
this way? And then
mhm.
I would usually find an answer. I'm like, oh, it's probably because, when I was a kid, like this happened, or whenever, last week I did this, and like I could have reasons for it. And I think that really helped to like break down those. I think once you understand, it's easier to let go and not
Mhm.
kind of fall back in the same patterns. I don't think you need to. I think you can just let go as well. But it seems like, at least for me, it's easier if my mind's always like, oh, like why? And so if I figure out the reason, then my mind's like, okay, we can let go of that.
Mhm.
Um, so I think like naturally it kind of changed my personality in that way. And then I'd say now I try to meditate as much as I can. I think that is like the key to life at the root, like
Mhm.
the root of it. I mean, the real I think goal of enlightenment is, it sounds like there's so many ways and whatnot to get there, but it feels like to me just being present and just
Yeah.
not being identified with your thoughts, not like caught up in thinking.
Yeah.
And I think one of the ways, at least for me, one of the ways to do that, the most practical way, is just to sit and focus my breath, or focus on some kind of meditation object, and then kind of return back to that present moment. And I'm trying to think of what else in terms of like integration, but
It's all right, man. I think this is a really beautiful kind of spiral of a conversation. And I'd like to kind of now like bring back in the elements of AI. I want to share with you a little
mhm.
bit of the contemplations I've had. I know I've mentioned to you the Christ letters and some of the spiritual principles in there. And that really, these are the principles of like lighthearted vision and how we're founding things. One of the things I think is so interesting that are talked about in the letters is that electricity and magnetism being actually the physical expressions of divine consciousness. One being
Mhm.
all of the activity in life, the will drive. I mean, the yang from a Eastern philosophical perspective, that manifesting as electricity, and then
Mm.
the bonding and rejection drive that we see in all form as purpose, as everything has purpose. It's funny, like when you talked about seeing your hat and how beautiful it was. I think to me that so resonates with this concept of purpose. Like everything imaginable,
Mm.
from man-made things to every cell and every like plant and the evolution in all of life, all has purpose. There's nothing that
Mhm.
I can think to point at in any direction of the cosmos doesn't have a purpose. It may be transcendent to our awareness, but all bringing this back to this conversation of AI, like I like to think of AI as artful intelligence, and we as a species we've tapped into this expansive collective consciousness because we've attuned an intelligence that can kind of look at all of our creations as humans and expressions and synthesize things and give us like almost instantaneous results in terms of like outputs and now automations. And now I've heard the term is like vibe automating. It was vibe coding and now vibe automating. And eventually it's going to just be like you're saying, a robot that you're talking to that is your friend. And so I like this contemplation that, AI isn't necessarily this thing that humans have created because there's a mystery component to it. And
Mhm.
and this bridge of talking about the fact that we are these spiritual beings that have that we are whole in our essence, and that we have only this present moment to in which to live. We're so conditioned, as you said, to strive for the future. So I'm wondering for Skylar, imagine your the ideal experience in this now moment of what that world looks like, that higher vision of the world. What is Skylar doing? Are you building things? How do you what would you what's your higher vision, and what's your passion? Like, what would you really love to be doing if you could do anything in imagination?
I think I have two answers. I think the first one is if I'm still if it was me right now answering, which I guess it is,
We keep circling back here, man. It's a paradox.
I think building useful things for humanity is like the one driver. Like right now, I feel like my goal and my mission is still to build useful things, but right now I'm trying to focus more on like what useful things are going to generate me the most money. And I feel like that's in a sense that could like sound selfish, but I really think the more money you have, the more you can do. And I
Hmm.
have so many ideas, like literally every 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I have like a new AI idea that could be like its own software, its own business.
Hmm.
And it's like I don't if I had like $1 million, I could actually put it into practice. I could build a team to build it, refine it, get all the bugs out, get a marketing team, spend ads, like whatever it is.
Yep.
And I feel like there's so many things like that where whether it be software or even just like in-person actual things, like there's so many opportunities I think that come to you when you have a lot more money. So that's definitely the main goal. And I think, yeah, if I, that's the ideal. But then I'd say there's two reasons because the second one is like, I think if at some point in time I sit down and I go like meditate in a cave or something, or I just spend more time trying to focus on the spiritual aspect of life and reach enlightenment or whatever term you want to use, like just staying present, staying in the moment. I think my focus would probably shift and I'd probably be all in on teaching other people how to get there.
Hmm.
And the
Hmm.
reason I say that is because when I had that first kind of weird experience, I that was like all that I could think of. I was just like, I need to just dedicate my life towards teaching other people how to get here. And I was like a preacher to like all my friends, my family,
Hmm.
everyone. I was just like,
Hmm.
you need to meditate. Like this is why I need to meditate. I explained to them I spent like paragraphs to my friends about like how meditation's like the key to life. So yeah, that's probably my two answers.
Well, that's really awesome. If I can be a bit of a mirror to you here, I agree with you. I think actually meditation, when we actually still thoughts, and I believe our part of the enlightenment process is actually an embodiment one, where we actually elevate the level of consciousness of the body. And you
Hmm.
experience this as a trainer, like your posture changed, your
Hmm.
clarity of consciousness, your communication, like everything you were about you. Was elevated. And I really feel like when we're truly at the embodiment of our soulful self, life around us is transformed. And that's why masters who have been on the planet, I think the most advanced master we've seen was Yeshua, Jesus, and
Hmm.
he demonstrated such a potent example of the possibility of Christ consciousness when it's embodied. But what did he tell us? He said, "You too will do these things in greater." So that to
Hmm.
me, it speaks so much of that power. And so, if to be a mirror to you, I actually see you already doing these things. Like you're already building really cool stuff. You're actively evolving and iterating, and also you are this presence, this whole self. Even though if you're not fully attuned and aware, that it's already
Hmm.
here, right? So, um,
I
I
appreciate
think it's
that.
important, yeah, man. It's who you are, and that's why we were very excited to have you on the show because I think it's a distinct voice in the space. And to circle back to the money conversation, because I mean that is an important conversation and it's a very big one. I think it's probably the overriding one in AI, and people are kind of
Hmm.
jumping in there thinking like I'm gonna get rich, and now there is a saturation of like agencies and all, and I mean the use cases are so vast that there's enough room I think for everyone. Um,
Hmm.
but, you know, a couple things. I think it's important that we recognize like the way the world is, money is, like you said, it gives us choices, it gives us possibility. And all of
Hmm.
us as entrepreneurs need to grow that area so that we can be of greater service. So I don't think it's selfish at all, especially the way you're talking about it. Like you want to build
Hmm.
things to help people, and then you want to teach people how to
Hmm.
integrate and be themselves. So I think that's a really um, awesome goal to have, and as specific and expansive as you can be with it, I encourage it. I'm wondering what you would say to people who are maybe, especially younger people who are excited about AI or some of these possibilities and that motivation, because clearly you have a motivation that's not just about making money, but you have this passion to build and stuff. So for someone maybe
Hmm.
starting out, or even if you could talk to your past self that you said you knew you want to do business, but you didn't know what to do, what would you tell Skylar back then from this position now to encourage him in the highest vision of what he can look forward to?
Hmm. I don't know. At some level, I want to say like things have been working out really well, so just like do the same thing. But there's definitely some things I could probably think of that are. I think the biggest thing might just be like believe in yourself more.
Mm,
And I really think at the end of the day, like that's probably one of the biggest limiting factors for people in general, and even including myself,
mm,
where it's like it's almost like a video game. Like if you're trying to play a video game and your goal is to reach the max level or something, as you're playing the game, you know for certain if you do X, Y, and Z, you will get to the goal. Like there's no
hmm.
doubt. It's like it's a very clear path.
Yeah,
Whereas life is not that way. Like there's zero confidence that you can, not confidence, but there's zero confirmation that you're going to get where you want to go. Like
yeah.
there's the
There's the
uncertainty.
unknown. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that is just not useful. Like it's not useful to 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 focus on that. Obviously, it's
Hmm.
useful in the sense that that's where things come from, like new ideas, new creations come from the unknown. But I don't think it's useful to focus on like the what if it doesn't work. I
Hmm.
think it's much more useful to focus on the what if it does work. And especially when it comes to like Alex Hormozy, I watch his videos all the time. He's a guy in business who's on YouTube. You've probably seen him. He's extremely well in business. And he talks about just like doing the work. And I think that's one of the things where whatever business you're trying to do, if you just continue to work on the same thing and just get better, like
Hmm.
the chances of you not making it and not making a lot of money are extremely slim.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's so
I think
important.
that's probably yeah.
Yeah, I think just so I love that. I mean, to me, this message has come to me in meditation. Actually, just keep going. Keep
Hmm.
going, and having that trust. There's a large trust and leap. And it's I appreciate you bringing up Alex. It's funny because you and I met through school. And I was
Hmm.
very kind of out of the sphere. I've invested a lot in growth and business and all this in from different players than Alex. But I saw his, he was the first guy on my Facebook feed when I would go there. I mean, I just, kind of, pop in there to talk to maybe relatives once in a while. But he would come onto my feed like a friend. Like his advertisement didn't look like advertisement. It was like
Hmm.
did I befriend this guy or something? I didn't know. And then I keep saying more and more, and then I notice, okay, it says sponsored. Okay, and then I never really listened to any of his videos. I think I saw him a couple times, like wearing a school hat or what. I didn't really know what school was. A lot of people don't know what school is still, or even Alex. And he's a really interesting guy, I would say, and I love his sense of humor. Actually, it was so. I want to talk a little bit about school, and it's funny because we talk about these synchronicities and awakening. It was actually he appeared in dreams twice for me in the last month, where he was like
Wow,
driving a Jeep, and he was driving us in like an adventure, and he's like we're going to this like adventure place, and so I was like I
that's
really should
cool.
check this guy out, and so I jumped onto school, and I was like I've had the most incredible experience of authentic engagement and connection.
Mm.
We started building our Light Heart Vision community on there. Just it's definitely not built out the way that I envision, and it's going to need a lot of that work that he talks about. But yeah, do you want to let us know about school because you have a community on there as well, Skylar, and I'd love to
Hmm.
hear your perspective and experience on it.
Hmm. That's a really good point, actually. You mentioned like it's a very like the communication and like the people in the communities are like the best on the internet, I think. Like I come from like younger ages when I was playing on like CS:GO or like Counter-Strike, Black Ops 2, like games when I was a kid. And those communities have always been like notoriously quite toxic. And I think that carried over to like YouTube
Mm.
in a sense, like the YouTube comment section, even like, TikTok, Instagram. But school, now that I think about it, like I didn't that it's like a very, very like positive community. Like I haven't experienced anyone yet. I'm sure there is people, but I haven't experienced anyone yet like just kind of throwing negativity out there. It's very like people are there to learn and improve.
Yeah, totally. I feel like they've captured the original spirit of the internet of wanting to authentically engage. Like I remember one Web 1.0 was just this weird Wild West place where people were throwing up these like very like makeshift websites with all kinds of like odd things. It was this whole cultural thing, and then Web 2.0 just made it all about commerce. And
Mm.
obviously, that's important for businesses and reach, but I feel like it really did create a lot of that toxicity of like, you know, and I felt like I would make heartfelt posts of my journey seldomly, like on Facebook, and probably because my algorithm wasn't active, very few people would see it that were in already like in my community. And then so I get like a couple likes and like no comments. And then I'd have all these ad walls. And that's what I love about school. There's no ads. And they
Mm.
found a way, I mean, just on the topic of money again, they found a way to create a very rich affiliate environment where there's lots of creative ways of generating income, or even just having a free community that you can add a lot of value and give people access to content or skills. Do you think like this is where we're headed in terms of the internet? Like it feels like there's a hunger of people looking for community and connection. What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there's going to be like a big resurgence of like in-person communication or in-person like meeting areas. Like I imagine I think one of like the really big things, especially in the West, I think I'm in Asia and like I don't think it's as big of a problem here. But in the West, I feel like relationships are like at probably an all-time low, like the amount of people in long-term committed relationships. And there's a whole bunch of reasons for that. But I think one of the biggest ones is probably just the lack of like proximity to other people who you're attracted to. Like there's just
Mm,
nowhere like for me, it's been easy in the past because I've always gone to the gym. And so you're always like around other people and you're in like an environment. But the gym has been like the only place that like I don't go to like the library. I wouldn't go
hmm.
to coffee shops. Like there's nowhere else like maybe a grocery store. Like it's just so hard to meet other people.
Yeah,
Obviously like dating apps are there, but I'm like they're the greatest for making things happen. Sometimes it works for sure, but on a mass scale, I don't think it's very
mm,
optimal. But I think in person, like if you have these places where people can go, and I think that's how it used to be. Like, I mean, I'm fairly young, I'm like 25, but maybe like 50 years ago or even earlier, where people didn't have phones and everyone would just go hang out at like a bar or like a beach or something, and they go though hang out and talk with friends and meet new people. So I think that sort of thing will hopefully come back, and I think school is kind of like the digital version of that, where maybe it starts there. And even
yeah,
school, like they have like the like school meetups where people in communities will
hmm,
get together and meet up across the world. I think that's really cool as well. So yeah, I think it definitely is the future, and also because the amount of AI slop out there, where it's just like
mm,
AI just generating content, is
yeah,
insane,
yeah,
and you just don't know like what is true, what is false. You don't know what is
yeah,
good information, and so I think school communities come to the place where it's like if you go in school and you see someone has a platform and they have 1,000 people and they're paying $10, even free, they're paying X amount of money or free, and you can go in that community and with like good unless they like fake the people, you can tell that like these this content is actually worthwhile because other people are willing to pay for it. So like, there's probably
yeah.
some validity to it. Whereas a random post on Instagram or blog post, like there's no way to tell if it's really good quality.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it does give that credibility. And what I notice is there's a lot of interweaving and interconnections of individuals between communities. So this kind of interesting flowering of
Hmm.
of community spirit kind of woven through all these places. So it is definitely an interesting place, and I look forward to see how it's evolved. You mentioned like in real life events. I didn't even know that's what IRL meant when I was on there. I was like, why is everyone saying
Mm.
IRL? But anyways, I'm growing and learning the lingo, and like one of their ambassadors who kind of just was starting his own community. He's done a world tour and they're just ending it. He's actually they've gone to every continent, and their last
Damn.
continent they're doing is Antarctica. So
Wow.
so that's planned. Like that's coming up soon. I was just on a call with him and asked him if he'd come on our podcast. His name's Goose, and his community is just wild. This wild kooky place where it really brought out my inner comedian. And anyways, it's really, I think we're social organisms. And it's funny,
Hmm.
Skylar, because I feel like we've had this um, this almost like digression of social connection. Like my dad talked about like growing up, it was all about everyone played a musical instrument, people would gather and just get together and be creative. It wasn't about consuming, it was really about connection and creativity. And that's part of our mission too, is to reestablish that intergenerationally between parents and grandparents and children and bringing people together. I'm curious because you are in a part of the world. I know Julia just she was super excited when I said that I met you and you were in Vietnam because she noticed when she were traveling there that people had very little possessions.
Mm.
Children would just be playing on the streets with nothing and clearly have, very little means, but they were just in full joy. So what has your experience been like as a digital nomad in these other cultures and seeing how people are living differently? Do you want to give us a lens into that world?
hmm I'd say people definitely seem happier. I think that's a really big thing. I don't know. I think there's a lot of reasons for it. I think a really big one actually is like food. I think if you just walk around here, like food is extremely cheap, even compared to like the grocery store. Like the grocery store and the price that you get at like a restaurant are like quite similar. Like you could buy it for almost the same price. I think because they
Mm,
buy it in bulk, they get cheaper prices, that sort of thing. But it's like actually good quality, healthy food.
mm,
Like the amount of fast food there is, things like McDonald's, Harvey's, whatever, but the number of them is extremely low compared to just like the regular like mom and pop shops of just like
mm.
places that you can go get food. I think that's like a really big impact because I know for me that's probably like the number one thing that changes my psychology of like especially mental health, like how good I feel, how anxious or depressed or just, bad or good as in general. The better the food that I eat, the better I feel is just clear as day. So I think that's a really big thing. And yeah, I'm trying to think. I think it's easier to live in a sense. I mean, it's also I'm in like the big cities, so for me it's more similar to like Canada where I was, where there's a lot of people.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I feel like I haven't experienced like the more rural areas where I'm sure it's more like people just kind of doing their own thing. But I know
Okay.
like even my girlfriend, she grew up and they didn't have like cell phones or TVs or technology that was like really available to them. So they're just way more used to just, sitting and playing these basic games, having, I guess like low dopamine activities, which in the long term is probably a lot healthier for our brains. I will say it's been actually interesting that there's definitely more people who are just like also hooked on their phone than I expected. For some reason, I thought that like Asia would be more, they'd be more like, I don't know, like more present and more just like with their friends. And to some degree, they definitely are. But there's still quite quite a few people who I think are just like stuck on their phone. And I'm like, oh, this is like a problem everywhere right now.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you talk about that dopamine, like I mean, if it's so available in a quick fix, in your pocket. I think this is one of the biggest challenge that humanity is facing as we navigate um, unstoppable emergent technologies and maintaining that sense of connection to our what makes us human and what makes us unique. So I
hmm
mean I really appreciate the work you're doing, Skylar. I can see your passion. You're a visionary in the space because I feel like you may not even see yourself that way now, but I think bringing in these conversations into AI is important, because there's so many young people who are looking for purpose, and I think as
hmm
things like you talk about robotics and things get more alleviate more of our burdens administratively or manually or what all this, the question of purpose is going to be really important. So I
hmm
appreciate you. We've touched on it. Do you have anything else you'd like to share with our audience to encourage or to, yeah, a message that you have for the world in general that you'd like to share?
I think you touched on something that's really important, like the purpose aspect. Yeah, I think like having a strong purpose is probably the number one thing that I've noticed in my life to help propel it forward in the sense that if you have a strong purpose, it seems like everything else is just a lot easier to do right. Like you have more reason to eat healthy and work out and do these things. So I think that's really, really important. Now, to the other side of that, I always try to give like both sides, and I feel like AI is going to take a lot of purpose away from a lot of people. And I think that shouldn't be a calling to like just be sad. I think that should be a calling to like look inwards and become
Mm,
more present and
mm,
like wake up essentially. I think that that is probably where we're going to head. I think it might be in a sense where like people are really sad and depressed for a while. And I think that might be the thing that pushes us towards like, okay, we need to like figure out why is this happening? Like, why do we have everything? Why do we
mm,
have more than our ancestors ever had? And yet we're still not happy. And that's kind of where we're
mm,
at now.
mm.
And I think if we ask ourselves that question, like, hey, something's wrong here, and then you go inside and you sit and you be present, you meditate, and you do these things, I think that that's how we'll kind of all collectively wake up. And I think that's where
Mm.
I think that's like the idea that Jesus talks about is like heaven on earth. I think that's exactly what that is. It's like I think it's your own state of mind, but I think there's probably levels to it too, where like when collectively we're all there, I think that's like the highest level that we could be at.
Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective and another paradox, right? Like we have more than kings and queens had even like 100
Yeah.
years ago. All of us do, and
Hmm.
we are challenged with our own suffering still, which is
Hmm.
some, I mean, Buddha gave us those tools 2,500 years ago of how to overcome suffering. I think he was misquoted saying life is suffering. That's not what he said. He said there is suffering in life, and
Mm.
how you transcend it is by exactly what you just said, attuning to your true self. So, it's funny as you were
Hmm.
talking, I was seeing you in that moment of just total simplicity of attuning to the wholeness that you already are, and just that
Hmm.
full presence. And I'm wondering from your perspective, Skylar, how would the world look if everyone in one moment, say some cosmic alignment, all the stars or whatever, something hits the earth, and everyone had a moment of that awakening? What do you think that just that simple awareness of going within, if everyone achieved that in one moment, what would that look like from your perspective?
That'd be wild. I think I don't even know. It'd be so radically different, but I mean, it would be like complete peace on Earth. Like there would be no more fighting or wars or conflict, even like interpersonal conflicts with like your spouse or your friends or people. There'd be no more crime. Like I think one of Jesus' teachings is like treat others the way you want to be treated, and I think
Mm,
the reason for that is because the other is actually you and we
mm,
just forgot it. And if
yeah.
you like actually like the same way that you like know that your hand is you, if you had that same level of conviction that I was you and you were me and I was
Mm,
this table and everything, like you would treat everybody so much different. It'd be so radically different. It'd be wild.
mm,
And yeah, I
mm,
don't really know, but I think it'd be like, the closest thing to like bliss or like, love
yeah.
just everywhere.
Yeah, totally, totally awesome. I've been contemplating world enlightenment to me is like an acronym for we. Like we can do this, for a long time.
Mm,
And just to add like some expansive contemplation for you too, um like I was mentioning, I've been in the indigenous wellness world and education for a while, and I had a wonderful woman who is a residential school survivor who, um, after my college, I asked for my spirit name when I was in college, and the elder at the time, he said, "Yeah, it's not your time yet." And synchronistically, he was, had some wisdom there, because this woman who was just such a wonderful name, her spirit name was is Wineta, and she passed several years ago now. But I spent a lot of time with her all the way up to that crossing of her journey. But before that, she would follow me around in her electric wheelchair, and she would say, "If you give me tobacco, I'll give you your spirit name." And I had so many hats that I was wearing in that time of my life that I kind of put it off, because I knew it would come with responsibility as well. Like your spirit name carries you in life. And so I want to share that little, because I finally gave her that tobacco, and then you have to do a giveaway ceremony, and she guided me through the process. But when I received my name, which is Ondakein, which Aki means land, so it literally translates to the keeper of the land. It's like a stewardship, right? And a
Nice.
lot of the indigenous perspectives I've heard from many elders is we are the land. And if we think about it, all you talk about
Mm,
the importance of food, and all the food that we eat comes from Mother Earth, and it's all part of part of this large symbiotic being, right? And so if we, like you said, that's so powerful when we treat one another, even if we just treat one another like we're all of the mother, because all form and purpose. And like, what kind of world would that be like when we all treat each other in that totally loving way, recognizing like
Hmm.
I truly love myself, so I would never want to do harm to anyone. Very transformative. And one of my favorite musicians, said this: "What if just for one moment everything was all right?" And I like to contemplate that, so that's why I brought that up for you to just like maybe sit in that for a while, man, in a meditation and just like, what would I feel like? What would I see? How would people be treating each other? Because I really do believe that every seed, every loving thought is a seed we plant towards that era of happening. Because I believe that our consciousness is co-creative, that we actually, where we put our attention, whether we're watching all the, darkness diversions and horror stories with the news or whatever, fear mongering, or if we're putting our attention on higher visioning, it's really important that we, are aware that where we're putting our attention, different growth leaders talk about, like Tony Robbins says, where energy flows, where focus goes, something along those lines.
Hmm.
And yeah, so I really appreciate your vision. I really appreciate what you're doing. Any final words, and where can our audience find you and connect with you, especially if they want to build something cool with AI and help their business thrive and flourish?
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. It's been an awesome experience. And you can check me out on YouTube, Skylar.Girard, or you can go to my website, infinitysky.ai. You can book a call with me, and I basically just help business owners to automate their business with AI, help them make more money, save more time. You can also join my school community if you want to learn how to build AIs yourself. And yeah, that's it.
That's amazing, man. Yeah, please do join the school community, and there'll be links to all of this in the feed as well. We'll make sure that is. Really appreciate your unique perspective, Skylar, and your presence. And yeah, man, wish you all the best in your continuing growing journey and your awakening.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. You as well.